everybody. Welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast, presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. Ben, is that some K-tape on your elbow there?
Yeah.
For the non-visual folks tonight, Ben has some K-tape on his elbow. Must be a
tendonitis
injury, a little tendonitis. Got it. He's also wearing his Merle Haggard Mama Tried T-shirt. Big fan of that. Big fan of that.
I'm also drinking a beer you're familiar with.
Oh.
A little all-day IPA.
Oh, Founders. You get that all the way out there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Founders, very nice. Just north of me here in the lower left mitten, if you will. Yeah, good brewery up there. They do a lot of good stuff. Oh, boy. Well, I guess we should address the elephant in the room.
Ryan not being here?
Well, the elephant that's not in the room. Ryan is not with us tonight. And I believe his last comment in our Slack channel was something along the lines of be nice to me or something like that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, too bad, Ryan. Ryan has been day drinking, apparently. He had some friends come into town that he hadn't seen, and you know, I totally understand this. He's been having a nice day. He thought he was going to be able to join us. We got a message about an hour ago that said he doesn't think he's going to be able to make it, and that's probably good.
I don't know. I think it would have been highly entertaining.
Well, I think for those that would have seen the show initially, it would have been very entertaining until eventually YouTube probably kicked us off because he would have likely gone on some awful rant and gotten the FCC involved or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
He did, by the way, one of our listeners did comment on his rant last week, basically called him out for it. And that's kind of why I was,
what did they say?
I'd
love to see these comments. Please share.
Let me, I can pull it up. Just give me a second here. And by the way, we had a ton of comments from last week's show, and everything's growing, and I'm extremely excited about that. But here, let's see here. Okay. Comments.
Yeah, I told a little bit of an embarrassing story myself last week.
Guess I well, you did. That will also be mentioned here shortly.
That I shouldn't throw so much shade at Ryan for that. But
this is I want to give a shout out to this guy. He goes by Dill Whittet.
Dill Whittet.
Dill Whittet.
Does Dill Whittet want a shot?
He says,
"I'm pouring."
Are you kidding me on Claypool? He's been acting more mature. He didn't say he was top 3, not in NFL or on team, only that if he works hard enough, he can be, which some of us still believe is possible. Hey, I like the guy. He's an optimist. Now that we got someone who can throw him open, wait. Then you went on to say he should have said what he did say. He did not say he was something like that. I think Dilwitt was drinking as much as we were.
Okay.
That's highly possible. But, thanks for listening, Dilwitt.
Okay.
Yeah. So, this is what it is.
We highly encourage other people to drink while they listen to us because we're drinking while we're recording. So,
it's probably a lot more enjoyable if you do.
Absolutely. And I did crack my latest bottle of Bradshaw bourbon just a short time ago. And as always, it's delicious.
Which batch number is it?
It's actually still 2.
Oh, nice.
Oh, really?
Good one.
Yep.
I've had a 3 and a 4.
Okay, I haven't seen the 4s. I've seen the 3s.
I've had a 3 and a 4. And
okay.
Yeah, I drank a 2 a long time ago. And
yeah, this is my second 2.
I'm looking for a number 12.
Well,
for obvious reasons.
Yes, obviously. And
I'm not. I have an unopened bottle of batch number 1, which I will never drink.
I know. And you
figure one of these days I'll find that Terry's going to be someplace, and I'll be like, "Hey, man, will you sign this?"
Well, what we got to do is we got to have Superfan Rick on. You know,
right?
and Terry are like this. You know, and he knows.
Fuck Rick.
He pretty much knows where Terry is at all times, and you know, Rick is on summer vacation, a la myself right now, and so he kind of tunes everybody
slackers
out.
with their easy schedule and their immense salaries and budgets. God,
you're right. You're right about a few of those for sure. Well, what the hell? Anyway, it's the summer, guys. Tomorrow's July 1st, and I'm going to knock on wood because it's been pretty quiet so far for the Pittsburgh Pittsburgh Steelers. The only news that's come out has been positive. Minka Fitzpatrick, big deal, and signing of Larry Ogunjobi. So it's been pretty good so far. And let's just hope that it keeps going that way, because we're about 4 weeks out now from the start of training camp. It's unbelievable that we're there already, but we are. I did also on Twitter today, I did post that we'd be having the show. And if anybody had any questions, let me know. And so we did have a couple of questions that I would like to mention here. And this is from, we got to get Hammers a shirt or a hat here. He's been a loyal listener. Mm-hmm. He says, or asks, which rookie receiver has a better season? Okay, Pickens or Calvin Austin III? Pickens. Better yet, which one does Canada choose to use more often?
Pickens.
So, Ian, you're kind of nodding your head. I'll throw that to you. You think it's Pickens or Austin?
I think it's Pickens if we're not including return yards or return, stats in that, because I think Calvin Austin has some kick return abilities, and there's nothing that the Steelers like more than putting a new guy back there every year to handle kickoff returns. Now they do have Gunnar Olszewski, but I think he's going to be like the punt returner. I don't know if he's going to be the full kick returner too. But Austin might get his shot too. So we'll see.
Have you guys seen Calvin Austin? I mean, he makes Senquez Golson look like a big guy.
But
he's tiny. He's teeny tiny. I mean, I'll be surprised if he's a returner. I really will, because
who else was teeny tiny was Diontae Spencer, and we probably should have kept that guy.
Diontae Spencer had bigger wheels. He had a bigger ass and bigger wheels.
Okay,
and the ability to go left and right a little better versus someone else we know who was pretty much only straight line.
Yeah. Stephon Logan was also
Stephon Logan was he had big legs. Stephon Logan was actually pretty impressive. I got to give that. I mean, I till I saw him in person, I was like, whatever, this guy, and then I actually saw him in Pittsburgh, and I was like, holy shit.
I absolutely agree. It's Pickens. It's definitely Pickens, but I just wanted to throw the return caveat in there. But yeah, I think it's
you're right. It always is a thing every year where they're throwing somebody out there. I mean, like, they have Antonio Brown, who probably was honestly the best punt returner I've ever seen in my life. And they're like, we're not leaving him out there at punt returns. He's too valuable for the passing game. He could,
for sure,
could get injured. Kind of have to move him in. So basically what happens, since the wide receiver factory is, they put a rookie back there, or somebody who's young anyway, back there every year. And then he proves himself in the passing game, and he becomes too valuable to put on the punt team.
Yeah. Do you remember, I think it was 2004 when they had Ike Taylor returning kickoffs and he ran one back for a touchdown?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Forget that.
That was awesome.
He did. He actually did.
Yeah.
And I know people often think, what bad hands he had, and oh my God, he would have led the league in interceptions, but he couldn't catch anything. Yeah, he was actually a returner for a little while.
Just kickoffs, not punts, but yes.
Yeah. We had one other question from a Mr. Bozick. I believe it is. His question was, how many dust-ups in the ADA section, and I believe that's the Americans with Disabilities Act section, has Ben Anderson been or nearly been involved in? Ben, that's obviously a question for you.
The story I told last week, the person who asked this question was actually there and saw it unfold in real time. So he's just being an asshole.
I will chime in and say the answer is greater than 0. So.
It is. It's 1. However, the guy's a dick, and he's also a fucking jinx. And it was a Steelers-Patriots game. And I swear to God, every fucking time he shows up, he pushes my goddamn buttons. So I was already really tense. And he was doing his thing and pushing buttons. And you guys know I don't even like sticks. You know this, right?
We know.
They played Renegade. He's like, stick sucks, man. I fucking had enough.
Even though you agreed with him, that
pushed the button one too many times, and I was like, "Would you shut the fuck up?" And screaming at him and telling him to get the fuck out of there. And then I told Nora I was going to punch him in the face. I told him I would sit down though.
I'd like to thank Bozic for the question, because now Ben has gone back to rehash the story.
He can go back. He can go back and he can retell it from his perspective, for that matter. I mean,
right.
He knows what happened. He was there. And then the fucker starts, the same guy who asked the question was the guy I was telling you about last week, who starts Googling wheelchair boxing because he wants to know if it's actually a thing, and then starts sending us clips via text.
Oh, I'm sure it's a thing.
It is a thing.
Not surprised. Before we move on to tonight's content, I do also want to give a couple of shout outs. Number one, to our friend Amanda on Twitter. Amanda seemed to be having a rough night tonight. And I made sure that I tagged Ben in that because, Amanda knows Ben too. And we just want to send our very best wishes out to Amanda. And we hope that her evening is going better now.
Amanda has broken up with her latest Browns fan. And
she's got a real problem.
And, it'll eventually improve. She's talking about moving to Pittsburgh. I mean, everybody who lives there is a Steelers fan. It'd probably be better.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, maybe.
Right. Yeah, just a tip, Amanda. Just a tip. But I also, Jesus, going off the rails.
Poor choice of words there, buddy.
10 minutes. No, on a serious note, I do want to thank a long time friend of SCB. Her name is Jasmine. She and her husband, they recently moved down to Tennessee, and now my daughter is down in Tennessee now, and literally is down there and all by herself and everything. And the wonderful, kind-hearted Jasmine is actually driving up to visit my daughter, and they're going to go to lunch on Saturday and do some things around Nashville area and stuff. And,
nice.
And I could not be more grateful to her. She's a wonderful human being, and so I haven't told her that yet.
Live.
She and her husband are down in the Chattanooga area.
Yeah. Actually, I like Chattanooga. That's a good little town.
She's spoken very highly of it when I've chatted with her, and they're already geared up. They're going to the Steelers game in Atlanta, which is not a bad drive for them at all. So anyway, but I wanted to throw that out there. Obviously, being the off season, there's not a ton to talk about, but we always find things to talk about, as you can tell. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to throw names at you guys, and I want you to tell me what has to happen for that particular player to make the roster. Some of these will be easy, some of these maybe not. Okay. So Ian, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Okay.
All right.
And the guy I'm going to give you is Miles Boykin.
Miles Boykin. I really liked him.
This ought to be good,
draft.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him a lot in the draft, and then he did not do anything in Baltimore. That said, he has the size to be an outside receiver. I think, they knew James Washington wasn't going to be back when they signed him. Right. And it's a pretty low risk signing because he's still on his rookie deal. He's in his last year. So I think it's, in the seven figures of salary numbers, over $1 million. Might be over $2 million actually, because it's the last year of his rookie deal. But nevertheless, the wide receiver position right now is pretty stacked up. So, Boykin may need an injury to happen, as much as I hate to say it, to actually make the 53-man roster. I mean, I'm looking at him as like a good practice squad candidate.
Jesus, $2.5 million, bud.
Yeah, but there's no dead cap for us if we cut him.
Right.
Because it's his rookie
There's
deal.
No risk. Yeah.
We got him off waivers from Baltimore because they cut him.
Right.
But you've got Claypool and Diontae are your starters.
You got Pickens.
You got Pickens, who's a backup at an outside position.
Yep. You got Calvin Austin.
I was going in the slot, and I was like Gunnar Olszewski, Calvin Austin, I guess. The guys they sign in free agency usually have a pretty good shot to make the team. So
they're running Claypool out of the slot as well. They were in camp now. In mini camp.
Right.
So that's a possibility.
That's something we thought would happen, though, too.
Yeah. I mean, they did it a little bit his rookie year, too. They just basically, they had him run 2 routes from the slot, and none of them were in the flat.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
So we'll see. I mean, maybe we keep 6 receivers. Usually we keep 5. But it's a tough call. But he's got size and he's got speed. So those are 2 things you can't really teach. You got to see if you can teach everything else. But it'll be interesting preseason for him. Right now, I think he's a practice squad guy unless somebody gets hurt or traded.
No, that's fair. That's kind of where I was sitting. And Ben, I'll allow you to kind of give your answer to that one before I give you your player.
No, I pretty much agree with everything that Ian just said, and I basically chimed in because I couldn't let him just answer the question by himself. So
because you never can, so it's all
we
good.
already know what I think.
Never. Okay, so Ben, your guy, and I was really hoping Scarps would be here tonight for this. But what has to happen for Brett Mason Rudolph III to make the roster?
Well, Scarpino is hoping that Mason gets a chance because Ryan's all about life being fair, and it's not, especially in the NFL. It sure as fuck is not fair.
No such thing.
Mike Tomlin alluded to that in his pivot interview when he said, you're talking about 32 of the guys that are the best in the world at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as a coach who's been doing this for 20 years, I know the players, I know the coaches. I know that some of the guys that are being denied are among the top 32. And, and then that's kind of Ryan's point about Rudolph, and his is just that he should have a fair shot at being the backup, which he's not going to get because they drafted a quarterback in the first round and they signed a quarterback to be.
No, they drafted one in the 7th round too.
They drafted one in the 7th, but it's a 7th round pick. I mean, that they wanted to sign that guy as an undrafted free agent, but they didn't think he would come, so they drafted him instead. Okay, they don't think that much of him. I think they wanted another arm in there. They like some of the things this kid does, so they got him in. Rudolph. I think everybody else in the league has to stay healthy because if Rudolph becomes trade bait because there's been an injury on another team, he's gone. And I think in all likelihood, I think that is what is going to be his fate. He's going to get traded at some point during the course of the preseason to a team who needs a backup quarterback, a guy who started some games, has some experience, can provide some stability, and a guy who, frankly, needs a fresh start. And Rudolph needs all those things. Or he comes in and he just plays lights out. And Mitch Trubisky stinks it up. If that happens, if Trubisky plays badly and practices badly in the preseason, then they're going to hang on to Mason because they need somebody around who knows the offense and knows knows the coaches, knows the players, has some familiarity with the team, all of it. Yeah. And if those other 2 guys, actually Pickett doesn't have to do anything. Pickett can stink it up. Pickett can be horrible. They drafted him for potential. If Pickett's awful, it makes no difference. Really, the pivot point is going to be Trubisky. If Trubisky is good and shows them that he can be the guy to lead the team, Mason's gone. I doubt they're going to cut him. They're going to probably try and trade him at some point.
Oh, for sure. I would agree.
But they're not going to get much. I mean, a 6 or a 7, unless somebody really desperate. Yeah. That's all they're going to get. And I told you when they drafted him that he sucked. Moving on.
Ian, a comment on Rudolph before I give you your next player.
Yeah. I mean, I would also say that it's somewhat contingent upon, how a lot of Kuhn plays. That if, I agree with everything Ben said.
Dude, stop drumming.
if Oladipo just comes out and stinks it up, and they're like, this guy is not in any way possibly an NFL quarterback, we cannot keep him as our number 3, then that's going to change some things for the Mason Rudolph calculus a little
Are
bit.
you really going to spend $3 million for a third-string quarterback for a year? A guy you're not going to develop into anything? I mean,
probably not. And I said I agree with everything you said. I was just adding that to the conversation.
Yeah, I don't think it really. Oladipo, I don't think has any bearing on the conversation at all. He'll make the team or he won't. If he doesn't make the team, they'll find another guy to take that spot. Third-team quarterbacks are easy to come by. You don't spend big on them, and you invest as much as you possibly can into developing them so that they can eventually come back up. You hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating, and obviously an injury immediately changes the whole thing. Whether it's
on another team.
Well, and that too. Yeah. And I think that leads to the discussion of what are they going to do with 3 preseason games. There's a lot of people that think, oh, well, you just start Trubisky, and then you start Mason, and then you start Pickett. I don't know that it's going to work quite like that.
You do more scrimmaging.
I think so, too.
You do more scrimmaging.
I think you have to.
Obviously, you're not going to have any contact with a quarterback, but you do more scrimmaging, and you try to get a better handle on guys that way.
Right. No, I agree with you. Ian, the next guy is a defender, a safety by the name of Carl Joseph. This guy is a former first-round pick of the Raiders.
Good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
What has to happen for him to make this roster?
He really has to play well in special teams. Is to be honest with you. I mean, we've got Minka's under contract now. Terrell Edmonds is here for a year. They signed that Diontae Johnson from, I think, the Falcons, who's actually played decently well.
Some good snaps.
Trey Norwood showed some things last year, showed some versatility. I mean, I'm not saying I would count on, Trey Norwood to kind of be your, long-term free safety, but I think potentially as a backup free safety, backup slot guy who can cover, he's not bad. You could do worse than him for a late round pick. He's
agreed.
He's been a pleasant surprise.
I think they did great in that pick.
Yeah. So I mean, that's 4 safeties right there.
Right.
Plus,
and Arthur Millette,
who
can play safety.
There. Hold on. Plus, you've got Miles Killebrew, who is also a special teams demon.
That guy's awesome.
Yes. So that's 5 safeties. They might keep 11 defensive backs, but it's going to be really hard to see them keep 12 defensive backs. So basically, like, one of those guys, as much as I hate to say it, would have to get hurt. For Joseph.
A lot of this discussion is about the potential of guys getting hurt.
Yeah.
Because that's how some guys are going to make the roster.
Or, as we know, I mean, those last couple roster spots are always handed out because of special teams play. Yeah. So he would have to really show out on special teams, to turn.
Did he get any special teams reps last year? I don't know.
I don't remember. I mean, he came in like mid-season. I don't know. Last year.
Yeah, he did. And so, that's really tough to jump onto that moving train.
It is. And just to go back to Boykin for a second, he is a really good gunner on special teams. That's the one area that he excelled when he was in Baltimore. Now, is that enough to put him on your roster? I don't believe it is. But, we don't know the way Tomlin and Danny Smith might be thinking about this whole thing either. So, just to go to that point. Ben, let me give you another. I'm going to give you another offensive player here. And you might kind of shake your head at this one, but I think you see where I'm going. Anthony McFarland hasn't been overly impressive in his first couple of years. His time has to be running out. They didn't draft anybody running back wise. They did bring in a couple of undrafted free agent rookies.
They didn't do shit.
So that kind of tells you they feel like he's there for another year, but I don't know. Maybe you see it the same or differently. I don't know.
I think he makes the team again. He thinks he's making the team. He thinks he's going to be illegitimate home run hitter. This is going to be his year, blah, 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 yada, yada. If he stays healthy, I think he makes it. They got a couple of guys behind him who were undrafted free agents. Mateo Durant and Jalen Warren. And, Willie Parker was an undrafted free agent. So you never know. I mean,
it's true.
Somebody could come in, potentially could come in and be that guy who comes in and they're like, how come this guy didn't get drafted? What's the deal? This doesn't make any sense. But odds are that McFarland makes it. McFarland is more talented than these guys they signed off the street. Trey Edmonds, who we all know, good special teams player, doesn't give you much on offense. He's another one who may make the team, or at least make the practice squad and see some time in games because he's a good special teams player. But that's pretty much what McFarland is competing with, and none of those names are super impressive. I still wish they would have drafted a running back and shown Benny Snell the door, but they didn't. So
the only thing I'm hearing on Snell is that he has shown up a little thinner, a little better shape, but I'm not gonna run to the gambling.
I've heard that he has dropped some weight.
Yep.
He didn't concentrate as much on strength this year as he did last. He's working more on agility drills, and that the biggest issue they saw with the run game last year from their perspective, and these are professionals who do this all the fucking time. So they know better than you and I, was the line. And we know the line was god awful. So I can appreciate that. By the same token, when I look at Benny Snell, I don't see a guy who is overly dynamic in any way.
Certainly not dynamic enough to compensate for a poor line.
Yeah, he's not even a one-cut runner. He's a straight-ahead guy. He's between the tackles, straight-ahead runner, and he's not that good at it. He's not Jerome Bettis. Okay? You give Bettis 18 inches, he's going to get you 3 yards.
Right.
Or 4. You give Benny Snell 18 inches, he might not gain a yard at all.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Ian, any thoughts on McFarland before I give you your final player here?
I think Ben's right. The math is in his favor right now. That the calculus
is in his favor.
Let's
put that on Twitter.
The math's in his favor. That
I'm serious.
not only just the number of guys they have behind him, but also that none of the guys they draft, or none of the undrafted free agent guys, are burners like McFarland is. McFarland has more speed than anyone else in that backfield right now. And that's just a different element and a different dynamic that nobody else has. Other people can do what Benny Snell does. I'm not sure if anyone else has the raw speed that McFarland has right now. It's just turning that raw speed into, ability to make plays on the field is completely different. But, speed-wise, McFarland's the fastest guy in that backfield.
Yeah, and that's a huge advantage for him. Your last guy, in terms of how does he make the roster, is a guy I like, is a guy that's improved, but I fear he's odd man out again. Kevin Rader, tight end. How does
good one?
That is a good one.
Yeah, I come up with one every now and then.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ian?
So the number 3 tight end spot is kind of wide open, and it really comes down to how they define Connor Hayward as a player.
Right.
Is Connor Hayward a tight end? Is he an H-back? Because as little as this team uses a fullback, they're most likely going to carry both Derek Watt and Connor Hayward on this roster this year. And, they have they have the advantage of also having siblings who are pretty damn good playing for this team. So they're going to get 2 roster spots right there. So for Raider to make the team if they see Hayward as a fullback and keep him as a fullback, then maybe Raider makes it as a 3rd tight end. If they see Hayward as having that 3rd tight end potential, then, or even Watt having the ability to line up in line in a goal line set and just block a guy in front of him, then the problem they have at tight end right now, Freiermuth's a very capable number 1. He has some tremendous upside. I love Pat Freiermuth. My concern is if Freiermuth gets hurt, then Zach Gentry is your starting tight end. And Zach Gentry has shown a lot more than I ever thought he was capable of showing.
Agree.
And that said, he's also not a number 1 tight end.
Well, that's fine.
So
can he be one short term? Is he like a Jeremy Tooman type guy?
Maybe I don't know
for a game.
I mean, honestly,
Tooman was
Tooman was a better blocker.
Yeah,
but early in his career,
he can get downfield too.
Yeah,
early in his career, Tooman couldn't block a blitzing cornerback.
Yeah.
He was.
The guy I'll always go back to is Matt Spaeth. Like Matt Spaeth was a capable number 2 tight end who could block guys, but when he had to step into that number 1 role, he'd have 8 catches for 90 yards and not much after the catch, but he could be a part of the passing game. I don't know if Zach Gentry can give you 7 catches for 75 yards. And
I think though that Gentry is more dynamic after the catch than a Matt Spaeth was.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I don't
But I think Spaeth was also a better blocker than Gentry.
He was, absolutely.
Yes.
But agreed. I did see Gentry get better and better.
He's gotten better, yes.
And better over the course of the year last year. And if he's gotten stronger again over the course of this offseason.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
And
he's a big ass dude.
Gigantic frame on that kid.
Big man. Big man.
So
I think there's some potential there. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I think we could have a legitimate number 2 who could be a spot number 1. I'm not saying we do. I want to see him do something first. I'm just saying I think we might.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fine. Yeah,
that's fair.
That's fair.
And I guess what I'm saying is with the tight end position is my concern is if Freiermuth is out long term or Freiermuth gets hurt in some way.
Yeah, 2 concussions last year.
Right. Then Gentry's your number 1, and who's your number 2? Because is Connor Hayward all of a sudden your number 2 tight end? So that's how Kevin Rader comes into the conversation.
Quick question.
Exactly.
Connor Hayward, is he big enough to play tight end?
Not as he came out of Michigan State, but we've seen some guys on the defensive line pack on some pounds this year.
Okay, he's not tall enough. He's not even 6 feet tall.
No,
they list him at 6 feet. He's 5'11" and change.
Yeah.
Have you seen a picture of him standing next to Cam?
Yeah, I don't even know if he's that big, to be honest with you.
He's not big enough to play tight end. I don't think.
At
least not in line.
He's gonna have to be a move guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
that guy makes the team as an H-back fullback, or he doesn't make the team. I think.
And they love him on special teams. I think he's got all kinds of potential special teams.
They think he's got potential on special teams, which, and that, Danny Smith gets a handful of roster spots every year.
Yeah.
And they make those guys fit someplace because they want to give him a hat on Sundays.
The last guy, Ben, I'll give to you is defensive lineman, guy by the name of Carlos Davis.
This is a good question.
Does he? What's his road to making this roster? Because all of a sudden, there's a lot of guys in front of him.
There really are. I think that Davis is at nose tackle / defensive tackle.
Yep.
Behind Montrevious Adams, who was a very pleasant surprise last year. I think you both will agree.
Yep. Yes.
And Tyson Alualu. I think if Tyson can't come back and return to form, Tyson is 35, and he's coming off a broken ankle, and the Steelers are apparently counting on him to be the old Tyson Alualu until last week when they signed Larry Ogunjobi,
right?
Which kind of makes you wonder if they're thinking, well, maybe that Tyson's not quite that guy anymore. They also drafted DeMarvin Leal, and you got Chris Wormley, who had a good year last year versus the pass. And Isaiah Loudermilk. So from my perspective, you got 7 guys ahead of Carlos Davis. 7. But Davis can play nose. So if Tyson Alualu stumbles and can't return to form and gets cut, then Davis makes the team. Okay. Otherwise, no shot. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Montravius Adams comes in and he's in horrible shape because he got cocky and decided to take the summer off and do nothing, which I really, really doubt. But if he does something like that, Ian will know. Ian, who was the offensive tackle the Steelers took in '95 in the first round? Jermaine Stevens, who was a first rounder and got cocky and didn't work and just thought, I'll get in shape over the course of camp, and Cowher cut him. What, his second year? Third year?
I think third. He wasn't here that long.
Right.
Yeah, third year.
I think it was third.
He showed up for camp out of shape.
Yeah.
Had never been active in a game. Obviously wasn't working at his craft. And Cowher's like, yeah, I've seen enough. I've had enough, and cut him. Okay. If Montravius Adams, and I'm not saying he would, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to apply it, but if he applied some logic like that because he got the big contract, well, big for him contract.
Sure. Very big for him.
If he applies that kind of a logic to the situation and doesn't work and shows up in horrible shape and can't perform, then yeah, Carlos Davis has a good shot at making the team. Or if Tyson Alualu can't return to form because he's 35 years old and he's coming off a broken ankle.
So there are avenues.
So there are avenues, but they are slim. Yeah. I mean, you're talking tiny.
Yep. Ian, do you see that the same way?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Can we add something in here?
Of course.
I think the most intriguing position for me right now is the depth at inside linebacker. Right, you've got Devin Bush and Myles Jack are most likely your starters.
Yep.
But behind them, you've got Marcus Allen, Robert Spillane, Ulysses Gilbert, Buddy Johnson, and then Mark Robinson, who we just drafted in the late rounds. So I mean, you've got 5 guys
running
there.
Back.
Yeah. I mean, I think Johnson's an interesting project player, probably winds up on the practice squad this year. But nevertheless, I mean, that's 5 guys probably battling for 2 roster spots, most likely. And I mean, Buddy Johnson was like a 4th-round pick last year, and they're not going to cut bait after.
I think they like him.
I think they like him too.
He had some injury issues last year, is what the hang up with him was. So I would be surprised, and as Ben was talking about, if a guy comes in out of shape, not prepared, and if he was that guy, then bye-bye. But
for some reason they like Marcus Allen. I don't know why. Robert Spillane's probably going to make this roster because he's a cat of 9 lives. But but then Ulysses Gilbert's your odd guy out, and he actually showed a little bit last year. So it's intriguing to me. I don't know what the answer is here.
Well, let's look at that particular competition right there. Gilbert versus Allen.
I think
it comes down to those two. What do you do?
I think it's Gilbert, Allen, Johnson, Spillane, and Robinson, 5 guys for 2 spots, I would say. Maybe 3, but,
I agree. Well, I guess what I'm saying is I look at Spillane. I think Spillane's going to make it just because they like the wily veteran, blah, blah, blah. They know what his limitations are.
And he plays the run well.
Yes. And I think with Robinson, you can probably stash him on the practice squad. I guess I'm just looking at it like Gilbert's had the injury problems. But when he's in there, he's fast. He does some decent things. Whereas Allen, he's a former safety. He was always that tweener. He was not.
Yeah.
good enough.
It's kind of what they like about him. They like the fact that they can play him on passing downs, and they think that he's durable. He gives them, he's durable. Great.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
They think that he gives them a different range than they had before with their linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Miles Jack should give you the same range.
Yes.
Maybe more. So, and honestly, if Devin Bush is healthy, he should, on paper, give you that kind of range. But he hasn't been great in coverage. No. He's been disappointing for a number 10 overall pick. He really has. Moving up for linebackers. I think Ian talked about this at some point.
And I think the other thing is they usually don't keep 10 linebackers. So if you're looking at 9 linebackers overall,
right?
Watt, Highsmith, Avery are definitely getting kept on the outside. They'll probably keep a 4th. So I think that's like Derek Tuska versus Tuzar Skipper, plus anyone else with a pulse that maybe can compete there. And so I'm thinking
you're not wrong.
I'm thinking four outside linebackers, maybe 5 inside.
Kind of intrigued by Jannard Avery.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Arthur Moats, that he could play maybe inside or outside.
Yeah.
And
special teams.
And special teams. And he was a 3-4 outside linebacker. Then he went to a 4-3 system, and now he's coming back to a 3-4. So I think he's better suited in a 3-4 as an outside linebacker. But I think if push came to shove, he could slide inside too if he needed to, because he played that off ball in a 4-3 as well.
Right.
But he was a strong side guy in a 4-3. So
and as you mentioned, having that type of versatility is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
I think that they do keep 5 inside guys.
I think that the linebackers coach / defensive coordinator, the two guys, let's say they get 8 spots at the linebacker position, right?
Okay.
They get a starter and they get a backup at each spot. They get to decide. And then it comes down to special teams play. They may keep 10 linebackers in the event that 2 of those guys are special teams players that they deem to be valuable players. So it may happen. I think it's more likely that they keep 10 DBs.
Yes.
But
that's almost a certainty.
So they've kept 9 in some years.
Based on the makeup of the current group, I think it's very possible.
I mean, they could keep 11 defensive backs, to be honest with you.
They won't.
They won't. But okay, well, I mean, let's go through it, because we kind of talked about it with Carl Joseph, right? You've got Edmonds, Fitzpatrick, Kazee, Norwood, and Killebrew. That's 5 safeties.
Okay.
And then you've got Witherspoon, Wallace, Sutton, Millette. That's 4 corners. So that's 9 guys already. Yep. So then you're down to
talking Justin Lane,
James Pierre.
Yep.
But those 2 guys both played gunner spots on special teams.
Right.
And in the NFL, you can never have too many cornerbacks. So I have a hard time keeping them. I have a hard time seeing them keep just 4 corners. I think
Norwood makes 5. The team as both a corner and a safety.
Yes, but at that point, then how many slot corners do you have? Because you have Millette, you have Sutton, and you have Norwood. So you've got to
keep all of them. You're going to keep all 3 of those guys.
You're absolutely keeping all 3. Yeah, that's true. And Sutton can back up the outside, but I think
Sutton can start at the outside. That's the point of having Sutton.
Yeah,
he can do whatever you need him to do.
Yep.
He may not be your best player outside, but he can do it.
Yeah,
he's not, and he's a good cover corner outside. The issue that I think, I'm not going to speak for you guys, is that he's not great in run support. Excuse me.
He's spotty to me.
He's willing.
Yeah.
Which is what I was worried about when they drafted him. I didn't think he was very willing when he was in college, but he's willing as a Steeler to play run support and be that guy. It's just that he's not that good at it.
Yeah.
There's times he'll make a play, and then there's times when it's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I perceive him.
Yeah. He's not. Joe Hayden was one of the better corners I've ever seen in run support.
Ike Taylor
was really good in
run support.
Ike was great.
Ike was great.
Deshaun Townsend was pretty
Willie
good
Gay.
Willie Gay, yeah.
Who was not a big guy by any stretch of the imagination, was really good in run support.
Mm-hmm. And Willie Gay is another guy who's an example of total improvement from year to year to year. Yes. I mean, because his first couple of years when he was getting playing time, man, it was rough.
Yeah.
And he just
got to give the guy props, though, don't you?
Oh, I do. Total props. And speaking of props, like prop bets, see what I did there? Nice. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code TPPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See our show notes for details. And as always, we are very happy to be part of the Pigskin Podcast Network in association with DraftKings. So thank you very much to those wonderful human beings. I want to real quickly, I don't want to talk about it a lot because we talk about it just about every week, and we did last week, but the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we had another domino fall this week. Terry McLaurin got about 3 years, $71 million from the Washington Commanders.
It's over.
Ben, still feel the same way about Diontae? It's just not going to happen?
Yeah, it isn't.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I just don't. Look, at the end of the day, the Steelers are not going to pay him $25 million a year to play wide receiver.
No.
Okay? They're not. I think if he really wanted $15 million a year for 5 years, and I've said this before on this show, if he wanted $15 million a year for 5 years in February, they should have written out the contract immediately and had him sign it. Instead, they were like, well, let's just see where the market goes. Let's just see what happens. Well, the market exploded.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of fucked. They're not going to pay him $25 million. No, I don't even think they're going to pay him $20 million. All right. But it's not to say that he couldn't get $20 million on the open market. He could. He could get.
Yes.
He might be able to get $23 million a year for Diontae Johnson. Yes, they pay these guys on potential, and that guy can create separation, unlike a lot of players. I mean, he's got that gift.
Tremendous route run.
Yeah,
he can. That's not to say that he's great after the catch. He's okay,
right.
But that ability to create separation is rare, and so teams will pay for it. I don't think Steelers are going to come to a deal with him this year because they don't value. What it comes down to is this: intelligent allocation of your resources. Okay. The salary cap gives you a limited amount of space, and people will say, well, the salary cap's a myth, whatever. The Steelers, from their standpoint, they've got this much cash to spend, and they're going to allocate their dollars wisely. They're going to spend this much on wide receivers,
and
you don't spend that entire amount on one guy.
No.
Okay? So they've always been picky, very selective about the way, very intentional about the way that they issue second contracts to wide receivers. This is not going to be any different. They are going to make an offer that probably won't measure up to what Diontae wants. His agent has probably made offers already. I don't know if they've countered it. Who knows? They'll respond. They won't be able to come to a deal this summer, in my opinion, because the market is completely out of fucking control.
Thanks,
Terry
Jack,
McLaurin, that's part of it. But Terry McLaurin, I mean, $27 million a year for Terry McLaurin. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I don't. Ian, you posted his stats this week in our discussion channel, and I mean, they're pretty similar to Diontae.
No, they're a little better than Diontae.
A little better. Yeah, they are.
Here and there. So, I mean, McLaurin has more yards per catch. He's got more yards overall, more yards per catch. Diontae had more touchdowns. but Diontae also had like 3 times as many drops.
Yes.
So there's that, and fumbles. So yeah. So here's a question on Diontae that I just want to throw out there. We kind of saw during the draft that the value of a top tier receiver is essentially a first round pick, right? If somebody calls the Steelers and says, we'll give you a first round pick for Diontae Johnson, do you take it or do you hold on to him this year? Like what's his value for one more year versus, assuming he gets that contract level. So it'd be one more year plus a third round pick in, 2024 with a comp pick, right? Versus what you could trade him for now. So where do you put that value? First round, second round, a player, like a starter or a backup? I'm just throwing it out there for conversation.
I'll just be real quick. If somebody offers me a 1, I do it. Period. End of report. I mean, you do it.
I agree.
I just think you have to.
And I'm going to intentionally pick this one because some account with like 10 followers tweeted this, but like if the Bears called us and said, hey, we'll give you our first round pick for Diontae Johnson, or if the Bears said, we'll give you our second round pick for Diontae Johnson plus a player, something like that.
Well, the tweet you're referencing
mentioned, I would hope that it was a 1.
Right. Wasn't it Robert Quinn?
Mentioned a backup edge player.
Come on. I mean,
plus draft picks.
Yeah. Get the hell out of here. I mean,
well, hold on. Let's talk about this though. If it was Robert Quinn or a backup edge player plus draft picks, what would you want? Like a second and a fourth? Because if
I'd want a 1.
Yeah. Well, a 1 plus a player probably wouldn't happen just because of what we saw with the market at the draft. So just a 1.
But I mean, what's the value of a backup edge player? A 6?
Quinn's 32 years old too.
Yeah. He's been effective though in his career.
He has.
He's better than Melvin Ingram was.
He's over 100 sacks.
Yeah.
I want to say Ingram's better at the point of attack than Robert Quinn is at this point in his career.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ingram
as a run stopper.
Yeah. Ingram looked great the first couple games when he was in rotation. And then TJ Watt got hurt, and Ingram had a chance to really prove that he deserved playing time and completely disappeared. So Ingram was better as a spot player at that point in his career.
Okay, so fine. They offer Quinn and
what? Yes.
A 1. I mean, I don't think the Bears are going to suck that bad this year. So
I don't either.
That's what you have to do. You have to take it into consideration. Yeah. When you talk about a first or a second round pick, you're probably looking at pick 15 to 20 versus pick, 50.
Do the Bears even have a first round
40,
pick?
47
to I'll look it up.
52. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I mean, if somebody made a very generous offer for Diontae Johnson, knowing what A, he's probably asking, and B, what would it be to franchise him next year?
Well, with all these new contracts, it would be insane.
Yeah, I don't know. With all the new contracts, it's gonna make the salary, the franchise tag pop big time.
Monster.
It's probably gonna be 20 mil next year.
Oh, for sure.
To franchise a wide receiver or very close to that, if not that figure.
No,
but I think that's what happens. I'm just telling you now. My prediction is they cannot come to a deal with him. He plays this season, lights it up. They franchise him and try to come to a deal next summer. And we'll see. I mean, having a very inexpensive quarterback room, which the Steelers have right now, is a big advantage. That room is cheap.
Yes.
Yeah, gives you a lot of flexibility.
That is the greatest market inefficiency in the NFL is having a quarterback on his rookie deal. So here's what I'll say. That right now, Diontae's worth to us is essentially what he can do next year plus a third-round pick in 2024, because that's essentially what you could probably get comp pick, right?
You're right.
So generally speaking, you look
Yeah,
the value
right.
of a future year pick is worth around later in the current draft. So that'd be a 4th rounder this year has the equivalent value of a 3rd rounder in a future year.
Yeah, but
in a following
how
year.
bad do the Bears want him?
No, but here's what I'm saying. So you'd want to do, but that's his. So you figure that's his current value to us. So if we're giving him away, that means we're giving away any production he has this year.
Right.
You want to do better than what that current value is. So I think you need a day 1 or 2 pick to make it worthwhile to even consider it. And if it's a day 2 pick, which is a 2nd or 3rd rounder, you probably want a player in that deal too. So the market value for top wide receivers is a 1st round pick. Your current value on him is his production this year plus essentially the value of a 4th round pick. So you would want somewhere in the middle of that, the equivalent value of a 1st round pick, whether it's a 1st rounder or like a 2nd plus a player. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, their wide receiver depth is brutal. Their roster.
The Bears? Yeah, it is.
It's brutal.
And that's why it's an easy target to
They
compare.
finally have a good quarterback, too.
I mean, they drafted the Velus Jones kid out of Tennessee, Darnell Mooney, and they also signed who's the kid? Equiminius St. Brown. He was up in Green Bay. I mean, those are not names that necessarily scare me, period. Yeah. So that's why they're so attached to these rumors with Diontae. But my God, you would have to listen if somebody came in with a big offer like that. At least I think so.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, the SCB Steelers Podcast is presented by DEK Roofing of South Florida. DEK serves Broward and the southern Palm Beach counties. Whether it's commercial, industrial, residential, or condos, contact DEK Roofing today by visiting DEKRoofing.com. Getting away from the Steelers just for a moment here. I'm just going to go to you guys, speed round type thing. Ben?
Speed round.
Deshaun Watson, how many games is he suspended for the upcoming season?
People are not going to like this answer. 8.
Ian, go.
Yeah, like 10, I'll say.
I agree. I do not think it's going to be a full year.
And it just has to do with the fact that the NFLPA is pushing the fact that there were 3 owners who were not disciplined for sexual accusations of a sexual nature. And, I mean, honestly, they have a valid point.
They do.
It doesn't change the fact that this fucker shouldn't play football again. No. Seriously. I mean, honestly, he should get an indefinite suspension of at least a year.
He's a predator.
Minimum.
He really is.
Yeah.
But you know what? Life is not fair.
Nope.
The NFL, sure as fuck, isn't fair.
No.
In the NFL, I can tell you what's going to happen. They've taken this to arbitration. And here's the way this process works. There's an arbitrator who's assigned to the deal, who happens to be a woman, incidentally, who is going to say to Deshaun, why does an NFL player need to have more than 1 or 2 massage therapists? Why did you go to 66 different massage therapists who you came to know via Instagram? Can you explain that to me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm sure he's going to have some half-ass cockamamie fucking bullshit. I can't even, I would love to hear the response to that question because it's logical. What's going to happen is she's going to come back and she is going to make a ruling that it's going to be very unpopular based upon previous suspensions. Yep. Okay. What guys have gotten for this kind of thing?
Conduct detrimental.
Setting aside the fact that he has now 26 different. Oh, no, wait. Those 2 of them.
Some of them got settled, though.
Yeah. So
20 of 24,
I don't know.
but there's
20. Let's call it 25
there.
just to be,
sure.
Fine. 25 different accusations of the same kind of conduct. She's going to come back with something based upon precedent for previous suspensions And the NFL is going to go, well, I mean, we didn't make that decision. She did. And, we just, we're going to go ahead and we're going to abide by that decision. When the reality is this, the NFL can appeal whatever the arbitrator's decision is.
Yep.
And the person who oversees that appeal is Roger Goodell, who can decide whatever the fuck he wants in a completely arbitrary process that we've seen 1,000 times before. Tom Brady case, Ezekiel Elliott case. We've seen it happen before. In this case, it won't happen. They'll just go, well, we really don't want our owners to get thrown under the bus. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to abide by the arbitrator's decision. They wanted this to go to arbitration, which is why they insisted upon a minimum 1-year suspension, knowing that the Deshaun Watson side would say, no, we're not going to agree to that. And the arbitrator will decide it. And they'll just throw their hands up and go, well, the arbitrator decided it. We're powerless here. We can't, there's nothing we can do, which is total fucking bullshit. People are going to be angry.
Well, the first thing that's going to come out is, you're kidding me. Kelvin Ridley got a year for betting, what,
$1,500 in a fucking parlay
game he wasn't even involved in.
That it wasn't just a game that he wasn't involved in. It was a parlay, a 6-way parlay that he had like a 1 in a billion chance of winning.
Yeah, no. Ian, what do you think? You said maybe 10 games for Watson.
And my thought was just thinking about the appeal process that, Ben, for conduct detrimental, got 6 games and appealed it and got 4. That maybe it's initially, and I know the process is different now with the arbitrator and everything, but maybe it's, well, we wanted to give them a year, which would be 17 games, but we'll chop a few off and it'll be 10, something like that. And in those arbitrations too, there's some room for negotiation that, if the NFL comes in and says, we want him gone for a year, which I agree with everything Ben said. I mean, he's absolutely a predator and should be banned for life as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah,
I don't make the rules of the NFL. I don't run the league, unfortunately. So, I can see, the Watson side and the Browns coming in saying, we don't think you should get any. And then, the NFL being like, look, we can't give you less than half. So how about 10? And they'll be like, all right, fine, whatever. So, that's kind of where I'm you asked for a gut guess on a rapid fire round, and that's
where I'm at. I'm in that 8 to 10 games.
We didn't go very rapid fire on that.
No, we never do anything rapid fire because we like to break things down, and that's all right. That's what makes us who we are. But no, I'm with you guys. I think that's it. Unless there has been
holy shit
something going on with Watson's behavior that we don't know about, that really screws him.
There's stuff we didn't know about, like him propositioning 66 women for massages.
Yeah. I mean, and now you've got lawsuits.
I mean, honestly, that's totally normal behavior if you're Harvey Weinstein.
Wow.
He's in jail, isn't he?
He is, and he should be. Yeah. I mean, again, I will say it just like this. Either Watson was looking to exploit the power dynamic for some easy sex with randoms that he met on fucking Instagram.
Right.
Or he's a predator. Or both.
Yeah.
Either way, the guy's a fucking scumbag.
You talk to anybody that's ever routinely gotten massage therapy, and they will tell you
right here.
You find someone that you like and you stick with that person.
You find someone who you like, who kicks your ass. There's nothing sexual about it. You don't show up for a massage, put yourself in happy baby position, and demand that the woman rub you between your anus and your scrotum. Okay? That's not a massage.
No, that ain't
it.
It is not. And wow, we'll wrap it up on that note right there.
Fucking scumbag.
Did either of you have any parting shots tonight, by the way? I didn't ask that.
Yeah, I have one. Ryan, you're
ahead.
kind of a bitch.
Ryan's passed out. He is right now he looks like Marty McFly at the beginning of Back to the Future where his nose is up against a pillow.
He'll watch this or listen to it later. It's fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Ian, did you have something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, my parting shot is that it's stupid that USC and UCLA are joining the Big Ten. I'm a college football purist, and I'd rather just see conferences be aligned by geography rather than by whoever can make you the most money.
That's totally
I agree.
I agree with you.
The money has taken it over.
And it's going to get worse with it.
It
NIL. It's going to get fucking worse.
It is, and we were talking before you came on, Ben. You're out there. I mean, I think Oregon is going to play into this at some point.
Yeah, Oregon and Washington are the next targets.
Yeah.
Fox football is quarterbacking this entire thing. This is not something that the universities were like, yeah, we'd be interested in joining your conference. We're gonna leave the Pac-12. That was never part of the thing. Fox approached them and said, hey, there's going to be a lot of money involved. You can fund your athletic programs. What do you say to joining the Big Ten?
Yeah. Well, because Fox has both the Pac-12 and the Big Ten contracts right now. So
bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. Yep.
Yeah.
And so.
Or Fox has a shared Big Ten contract.
It's shared, but they have the Big Ten title game, and I think they have Ohio State, Michigan. So it's
much of their bid is big enough next year that they, or next time rather, that they get the whole thing, the whole enchilada.
That said, as a college football purist, I did always think that the Southern teams were cowards for never coming north and playing in the snow in the wintertime. So it'd be fun to see USC come to like Wisconsin in November. And see how that
I do agree with that. That would be fun.
It ain't going to be pretty. Not to mention the fact that the Pac-12 doesn't exactly put a premium on defense. I'm serious. I've been saying for years, other than Washington, nobody plays fucking defense.
Well, they haven't seen a fullback in 30 years either.
If you just play hard defense and you have a good defense in the Pac-12, you could win it.
Yeah. Well, there were years that Stanford was like in the Pac-12 championship game because they actually played defense and had no offense.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true.
Like the post Andrew Luck years, they had a couple terrible offenses, and
But I think by this time next week, there will be other teams moving. I think the dominoes are falling.
But those Southern teams like Texas and Alabama and LSU, they're all cowards for not coming north in the wintertime.
Cowards.
Yellow. Yes. They're yellow. We'll leave it there. All right. This has been the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing.
Beat him on a cold day, right?
Right. Thanks for tuning in, and the show is officially off the rails. All right. Good night, everybody. And hey, go Steelers.
Hey, Ravens suck.